Unit 1, SLTs 24-30 have to do with triangle congruence and how to prove triangles are congruent. We can prove triangles are congruent in 5 ways, and these are through different kinds of theorems. The first theorem is the side-side-side triangle congruence theorem. We also call that SSS. So if the 3 sides of one triangle are congruent to the 3 sides of another triangle, then the 2 triangles are congruent. So as you can see here, we know that the 3 sides of this triangle are congruent to the 3 sides of this triangle because of the tick marks. We have 1 tick mark here, 2 here, and 3 here. Now if we look at these 2 triangles, okay, this is triangle 1 and 2, we can see that we have 1 side congruent to each other, 2 sides congruent to each other, and the 3rd side they actually share. So if it's the same side, that means that they're equal to itself, and that has to do with the reflexive property. The reflexive property is when something is equal to itself. So that's why that line that they share, it's equal to itself, so they're congruent. The next theorem is the side-angle-side triangle congruence theorem. Oops. So that would be called SAS, side-angle-side. So if 2 sides and the included angle of one triangle are congruent to 2 sides and the included angle of another triangle, then the 2 triangles are congruent. So if we look at this one, included just means in between. So the angle that's in between the 2 sides that are congruent. So these are the 2 sides that are congruent on these triangles. And then this is the angle, and that angle is in between. So you can see we have a side, angle, side. The next one, those 2 are congruent because they have a side, angle, side, side, angle, side that are congruent. So you can see SAS, side, angle, side. And then same here, you have to look at that reflexive property. This is congruent to itself, so we have side, angle, side. So now we can say that these triangles are congruent. For example, I'll do this one. Triangle GHI is congruent to triangle RTS. The next one is the angle-angle-side triangle congruence theorem. So angle-angle-side, AAS. So if 2 angles and a side of one triangle are congruent to 2 angles and a side of another triangle, then the 2 triangles are congruent. So we look at this one. We have an angle, they're both right angles. So we have an angle. We have another angle that's congruent, and then we have a side that's congruent. So angle, angle, side. Here, this side is congruent to itself because of the reflexive property. So another angle, angle, side. The angle, side, angle triangle congruence theorem. So we write that as angle, side, angle, ASA. If 2 angles and the included side, remember included just means in between, the included side of one triangle are congruent to 2 angles and the included side of another triangle, then the 2 triangles are congruent. So again, this first one, we have angle, side, angle with this one. So these two triangles are congruent because of angle, side, angle. And these two triangles, don't forget that middle side with the reflexive property. Angle, side, angle. The last way to prove that two triangles are congruent is the hypotenuse leg theorem, HL. So if a leg and hypotenuse of one right triangle are congruent to a leg and hypotenuse of another triangle, another right triangle, then the two right triangles are congruent. So you have to have right triangles for this theorem to work. So we have a leg and the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always the slanted one. And lastly, these are theorems that cannot be used to prove two triangles are congruent. Two triangles cannot be proven. Angle, angle, angle. Or side, side angle. You can't prove congruence with angle, 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 or side, side angle. Now I want you to get the practice worksheet and I will do the first one with you. So for this practice worksheet, all the pairs of triangles, are the pairs of triangles congruent? If so, write the congruent statement and why. So if we look at the first two, we can see that there are two angles that are congruent to each other, but there are no sides or anything. So these ones are not congruent. And then I'm going to do the third one with you as well. So we're going to mark that reflexive property, that side that they share. And you're going to see that they have side, side, and side. So we're going to say that triangle DAT is congruent to triangle DET because of side, side, side. So now I want you to finish the rest of that worksheet on your own and hand it in to the teacher when you are done.